up, y'all?
Corn, I don't know, man, if I have seen someone, and I think I said this a while back when he first came on the network, was I don't know if I've seen someone with the drive and passion to make it in the industry like I've seen with you. And
that's my boy, that dude 2020. I like the name.
The drive and fire and passion in some people is not quite there for this type of an industry because it's cutthroat. It's very, up and down roller coaster of emotion. Also, I don't know if I've seen a person, though, who probably has been so appreciative of a chance that they were given. Corn, like I've said, though, man, is, again, you're one of the new guys on this network. And again, I know that you're very appreciative, though, of me kind of giving you the shot here. But
how did you get blocked by LeBron James on Twitter?
I don't know if I've seen so much drive and energy and passion from someone maybe other than me for this industry. And
LeBron is truly a rising star in this industry. He knows his stuff. He's not afraid to go at people, and he's a guy that you want to go to bat for. And I'm so thankful that he's part of our network.
What is up, folks? That one dude 2020 here. A quick emergency lab show. Kind of had one little trade in the NFL that happened, and potentially the Denver Broncos are finally realizing that Drew Lock is not the answer at the quarterback position. But again, ladies and gentlemen, Drew Lock, the Denver Broncos, trade for Teddy Bridgewater with a 6th overall pick. Before we kind of continue on to this quick 5 to 10 minute show, tomorrow night on the MI6 Sports Network, we're having a NFL draft extravaganza. The whole entire first round of the 2021 NFL draft. All the reactions, Isaiah flipping out with the San Francisco 49ers decide not to draft you-know-who in Zach Wilson. Without further ado, let's put it into the draft extravaganza video.
He'll throw it here on first down. Pressure up the middle. Wilson gets away from trouble. Oh, wide open receiver is caught inside the 20. Four-man rush. Fields has time. Launches downfield. It's Olave. He's got a touchdown. Ohio State. A deep strike, and the Buckeyes stretch the lead.
Again, the NFL Draft Extravaganza will be here tomorrow night on the MI6 Sports Network for the entire first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. All the reactions, emotions. Isaiah Leong says he's going to break a TV if the San Francisco 49ers draft Mac Jones. Again, folks, this is the That One Dude 2020 emergency show. There isn't really a lot going on in the NFL. Today is some other breaking news that, again, the Denver Broncos trade for Teddy Bridgewater. I wanted Teddy Bridgewater, on the Broncos for a couple of years now. But let me kind of clarify this. Just because Teddy Bridgewater is on the team doesn't mean that the Denver Broncos are not going to select a quarterback in this year's draft. I'm excited to have Bridgewater on my team, and maybe it's just slowly but surely the Denver Broncos organization and leadership finally swallowing their pride and finally realizing that, hey, Drew Lock may not be our franchise quarterback. So if you're bringing Teddy Bridgewater, having that veteran mentorship, if you're going to have a quarterback battle in camp between Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock and potentially another quarterback, you really think Drew Lock is somehow going to outwin Teddy Bridgewater for the starting job with the Denver Broncos? Again, folks, Denver Broncos trade their 2021 sixth-round pick to the Carolina Panthers for Teddy Bridgewater. People know a lot of Teddy Bridgewater's story. He had his best season in 2015, leading to an 11-5 record that year, going to the playoffs. And we kind of know what happened after that. I believe it was a Dan Bailey or Sosauska game or kick that was missed, and unfortunately Seattle went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Or sorry, the Patriots did. But again, folks, the question is, when we're looking at as Broncos fans, regardless if we're critical of Drew Lock or anything, again, I'm sorry, words are all over the place. I'm exhausted. But now, if the Denver Broncos, since they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, does this show this doesn't really change anything of how they approach the draft? But this is also mean that they have less and less confidence in Drew Lock. I know when we talk about criticisms for quarterbacks, or when they praise a quarterback, sometimes let's ignore the number, like the passing, the touchdowns, the yards, the interceptions. Let's ignore that for a second when I talk about Drew Lock as a quarterback, and for now, no longer the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. I'm not saying Teddy Bridgewater is this flashy elite quarterback. Oh, is going to win his MVP. That's not the type of team that we're going to have. With the Denver Broncos, and this isn't a shocker to really anybody, what the Denver Broncos have done: defense, defense, defense. You let the quarterback do their thing. You let them pass here and there. But again, folks, this is a team that could be really exciting for next year. We were in 2016. We were so close to getting to the playoffs. But I'm not saying Teddy Bridgewater is our savior. But it does get me excited that Drew Lock potentially will not be with the Denver Broncos next year. Just because, let's just say Drew Lock is done with the Denver Broncos forever. I am critical of him as a quarterback. And I think some people neglect that, say, hey, I am critical about a quarterback. I am critical about a player. That somehow translates to I am critical of them as a person. And that's where it kind of drives me nuts. It's like, I've been very critical. Do I think he's a great dude? Yeah, me and him could have a beer sometime. But I think there's a notion here that if you're critical of a player, like you are with Mac Jones, does that mean that you're critical of his person? No, but I think this is kind of what I was saying, Isaiah, just a little bit that the Broncos are starting to get a little bit less and less confident about Drew Lock being their quarterback. Even though somebody in one of these panels here on the show tonight said he would win MVP last year, and said Drew Lock this year would win NFL MVP for the 2022 season.
Well, first of all, let me say this. I am glad to be on the show tonight. I've been dealing with a bunch of stuff, but glad that those things are now taken care of, and I get to be on the show for tonight to talk about this trade that pretty much erased any hope that I had of wanting a Jimmy Garoppolo to the Denver Broncos trade and seeing John absolutely flip out on the set come tomorrow night. That would have been epic. But, let me say this. John's right. There's this notion where when we criticize a player, people think that we're criticizing them personally. And I know that a lot of people have misconstrued my criticism of Mac Jones, or McCorkle Jones, that we're going to call him. We're not calling him Mac. We're going to call him McCorkle Jones until for you it's MJ. For me, it's McCorkle Jones. But I don't hate McCorkle Jones. I like the kid. I think he's going to have a good career. I wish him nothing but the best. My anger is more directed towards Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch for making that idiotic decision to trade up for that pick. And I think that's kind of, where John was going at it with his Denver Broncos and with Drew Lock. But about the move in general, I think that George Payton, the general manager of the Denver Broncos, did exactly what he said he was going to do when he was first introduced as the Broncos GM. He said, when asked about Drew Lock, they're going to give Drew Lock a fair shot to win the starting job in training camp, but they're going to bring in a veteran quarterback to provide some veteran competition for Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. And I think that's what the Denver Broncos are doing with this move. You give up a 6th-round pick. A 6th-round pick is pretty much nothing in the NFL. It's like giving a box of cookies pretty much for Teddy Bridgewater. That's how worthless 6th-round picks are in the NFL. And also, Carolina, folks, they're paying majority of the salary that is owed to Teddy Bridgewater for next season. So the Broncos pretty much got him for free. I mean, they pretty much got him for free.
Thank you, Matt Rule.
Yes, thank you, Matt Rule. It's a move that, you had to take, because if you're gonna get the Panthers to pay the guy's majority of the guy's salary, plus you're only giving him up a 6th-round pick, you can't pass up on that. And the Broncos, I like this move because it's a move that if Drew Lock, if it doesn't challenge him to be, go ahead, John.
Breaking news: the Phoenix Suns make the playoffs for the first time since 2010, defeating the Clippers 109-101. But I say you can continue. I just want to break that news to you.
What a day, man. If I had a bottle of champagne, I would have celebrated right
You're
now.
You're a Lakers fan, remember.
Yes, but I've been a huge Devin Booker fan ever since day one. I've been on that guy's wagon ever since day one, and to see Phoenix finally make the playoffs is super sweet. But we're moving off topic here. But about the Broncos, I think Denver, they are poised to win now. They can't afford to go out and go get a project like Trey Lance, who needs to sit on the bench for the next couple of seasons to develop, or even, Justin Fields or any of these rookies, because I feel like besides Trevor Lawrence and maybe Zach Wilson and, McCorkle Jones, the Justin Fields, Trey Lance, I just don't think they're NFL ready right now. And you're going into a Broncos team that needs to win right now, especially for Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio has another losing season. Vic Fangio will be out of a job in Denver. So the GM gave him, provided him with a bunch of pieces on the defense. They got Fuller in the offseason. They also got Ronald Darby in the offseason. Now they give him a veteran quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, which he can turn to if Drew Lock struggles. And they're going to also, I guarantee you, provide him with more offensive line and, offensive help. So Vic Fangio, he's got no excuses now. He's got no excuses. He has to win this year. And if he doesn't win this year, Vic Fangio is out of a job. Love this move by your Denver Broncos.
John Elway. This is a John Elway that I like. And again, I was telling them, I'm not saying that he's going to win MVP. It doesn't matter who they have at quarterback. You don't need him to win MVP. It's defense. Our defense didn't struggle last year. If you protect Teddy Bridgewater, the last time Teddy Bridgewater had a decent offensive line, they went to the playoffs in 2015 with Adrian Peterson and the young Minnesota Vikings with Xavier Woods and all of those guys who are now dismantled at that point. I think with Denver Broncos, I want to answer James's question, but I'm going to try and do it with less biased as I can, despite how much I don't want Drew Lock. I can neglect how you aren't a good quarterback, in my opinion, but also your terrible choice of hip-hop music. The chair James Gonzalez says, what week will Teddy Bridgewater take over to start for the Denver Broncos? It's going to be no later than week 3 or week 4. Because the fact of the matter is, despite that extra game this year, remember, there are 17 games this year, folks. So the Denver Broncos have another chance to make the playoffs. But like Isaiah said, there's little room for error. You don't have 4 to 5 years to wait. This is not me being a what you call the impatient Broncos fan. The Chiefs are going to be here for the next 5 to 10 plus years. You have the Raiders that are going to be doing their thing. The Chargers are making moves here. This isn't the Chiefs of, like you say, Matt Castle or Nick Foles. This isn't the Raiders of Matt McGloin back in the day or Terrell Pryor. We don't have time to sit back and see what's going to happen in the next 4 to 5 years. This is the John Elway that I like. I'm not saying that he's going to be like a Peyton Manning, but taking those type of moves that you don't think any other team. I wanted Teddy Bridgewater on my team for years. I have traded for him in Madden countless of times. I think no later than week 3 or 4, depending on if Drew Lock can't limit the turnovers. Because again, I said we can ignore the numbers, passing yards, touchdowns, all that. I screw Pro Football Focus just for this one topic. let's look at him on field. Just watch the film. His decision making in the pocket, you can tell, isn't there at that type of quarterback. And I could understand if we're in rebuild mode, we give you time to figure out your decision making in the pocket. His mobility. If I could get something, a brick, that is Drew Lock's mobility in and outside of the pocket. And with how this team is, I understand that you don't need him to throw for a bunch of yards, but you can't be throwing to the other team every single pass. No later than week 3 or week 4.
And as for my answer to this question about what week will Teddy Bridgewater take over to start for Denver, you know what? I'm going to say probably week 4 or week 5 because, or I think it'll be sooner. I think if Drew Lock has like the first couple of games for Drew Lock is going to be huge for Drew Lock because if he struggles the first couple of games, I would not be surprised if Vic Fangio yanks him in the middle of game 2 and puts in Teddy Bridgewater for to start for the Denver Broncos. I really liken this situation to the Mitchell Trubisky Nick Foles situation in Chicago last season. I think that's what Vic Fangio and the Broncos are doing in this situation. You know, Vic Fangio, he came from the Matt Nagy coaching tree, having coached for the Chicago Bears prior to joining the Denver Broncos as their head coach. And I think he's taking lessons from Matt Nagy. You know, he's taking, you have a young quarterback, you bring in some veteran competition like the Bears did with Trubisky, and then they brought in Nick Foles. And then now Denver does that. They have Drew Lock, they bring in Teddy Bridgewater. And if, you know, Lock struggles the first couple of games, Lock's going to be out of there in Denver because Vic Fangio knows he has no error in Denver. He has to win this year, and if he doesn't, he will be fired. So he's going to put in Teddy Bridgewater, I guarantee you, probably by week 2 at the earliest. I could definitely see that unfolding in Denver.
I've been saying this whole offseason. I said anybody can girder me on or off camera. I say give Drew Lock some veteran help, regardless if he's going to be the future quarterback or not. This is true for literally anybody. You can say Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, I think, is not a great quarterback. Again, did it help him a little bit? Yes, that is very important. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, we saw Patrick Mahomes early on in college. He had the arm, he had the talent. But to extend that to NFL level of talent, learning behind Alex Smith for a year, I think really helped. Because if Patrick Mahomes started early, again, this is the problem, we start guys too early before they get learned from veteran help. I mean, look at Jameis Winston. I understand you can be critical, like interceptions, but it helped him on and off the field. And I've been saying that for a very long time. But all they have to say, they make the announcement of our next quarterback. I'm excited.
Walk, come on. You better, come on. Come on. That's right. You better.
That's freaking white, folks. Teddy, again, I didn't make that. That's courtesy of the Denver Broncos social media page. Again, courtesy of the Denver Broncos social media page. So I just thought that was hilarious here. But again, this definitely shows at this point, if I'm even with the Broncos, despite you getting Teddy Bridgewater, this shouldn't fear you from trading up in the draft. There's already rumors. I understand that I say rumors are blanket rumors. They don't mean anything. But if you're getting potential calls about the 9th overall pick, despite getting Teddy Bridgewater for literally nothing, you trade up in the draft. I'll take Justin Fields over Bridgewater. I'm not saying that they're going to get a chance to get Fields, but I love the opportunity in my head. Yes, I think that would be great. And the fact of the matter is, trade up in the draft. John Elway, grow some earwax here. I think you could have an opportunity to find your franchise quarterback. It'd be a lot easier this time around because we have little to no time to err. Von Miller's getting older. Bradley Chubb, you're going to have to pick up his 5th year option sooner or later. You got Kareem Jackson. Kareem Jackson's 31, 32 years old. This is not 2015 with Malik Jackson and all these other guys that are no longer with the team. We have to win now. Contracts expire. Quarterbacks, who really knows? Melvin Gordon, you're going to have to pay him after this year if he does what he does, even 60% of what happened last year. Again, James Scales comes in to say, I was shocked by the Panther Broncos trade. James, I was really shocked too. Like because I called Isaiah immediately right after, dude. I was going to get gas and I was going to head to work. And seeing that as I was going to get gas, dude, I was freaking pumped. I was screaming. I was excited because this is a quarterback that I've loved for his entire career, regardless of numbers or accolades or if he's going to ever be a elite quarterback. I love him on my team. Yes, partly because this means Drew Luck will not be the long-term starter, and it should be that obvious at this point. James Gonzalez also says, cannot wait to see this quarterback competition in preseason. I am excited about it. It's just going to delay the inevitable that Drew Luck is not the guy. You can talk about, oh, look, his first year. No, this is a different situation here. You don't have, let's look at the Colts with the Peyton Manning his first 2 years. You have Tennessee. All right, great. What did the Jaguars do? Nothing. What did they have to do? Nothing. Versus now, years later, where now you have every single team in your division is a playoff contender. We are a quarterback and a few offensive line players away from being a playoff contender, and we have an easier advantage. But just because we have an easier advantage of one extra game, that doesn't mean we should be relaxed. You need to treat this like you're about to be eliminated from the playoffs in every single decision that you make. Again, I am happy that Teddy is just even playing. I couldn't agree more, folks. If you haven't followed football really ever, what happened in towards the 2015 playoffs, I believe Teddy Bridgewater was sliding down and one of the defenders popped him in the knee, and it didn't look like he was going to start or walk ever again. Again, it's one of those stories here, folks. And the Vikings, unfortunately, lose in the playoffs that year. We go on 2016. He misses the year 2017 to get Sam Bradford. The next year, Case Keenum, one game away from the NFC Championship game, and now a guy that we didn't think was ever going to play again nearly beats out Sam Darnold again. And then now Sam Darnold takes his job in Carolina. Very ironic. I'm happy to see Teddy Bridgewater starting and even playing again in the NFL. This one I'm excited about here, James. And Isaiah knows here that potential trades before or during the draft are going to be fun to watch. But Isaiah, you were so confident. You were so cocky. Jimmy Garoppolo was going to the Denver Broncos. They were going to trade a second-round pick. And what did I say last time? I don't believe it. Because until it happens, until it says the Broncos have sent a second-round pick, they have sent. Until I see that confirmed, I don't believe it. And clearly this just shows here that either the reports or was just false. Who knows? Because we see, like as I said, you see so many reports before the draft that say, oh, look at this guy and this guy. Think about it. Mac Jones wasn't supposed to be that high of a pick, supposedly. And then you get all this hype around him, and now he's potentially a top 4 pick in the NFL draft this year. There was some talk about Jake Fromm with them, potentially some issues off the field and text messages, whatever, and he goes down to the 6th round. But how do you feel now that Drew Lock, the guy that you hyped up, that said that he was going to win MVP, how do you, I know we joke around, but in all seriousness now, looking at the Broncos, who do you think would honestly, healthy offensive line, who do you think would win the quarterback competition in camp?
I still think regardless of who wins the competition, the Broncos offense still ain't going to do anything. And it's not because I hate the Broncos. It's because of Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur should have never been hired as the Broncos offensive coordinator.
Neither Vic Fangio.
He is the most blandest offensive play caller, blandest offensive schemer, blandest offensive play designer I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know how that dude has been a head coach 2 times in his NFL career. It makes no sense whatsoever. Yes, the guy was a quarterback's coach for Andy Reid, but if you follow Andy Reid, it does not mean that you are this bright offensive mind. Just look at Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy followed Andy Reid in Kansas City, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, Matt Nagy, we got the next Sean McVay, we got the next McVay. And then he made the playoffs that first year, and then everybody was like, yeah, I told you, we got the next Sean McVay, we got the next Sean McVay. And look what's happened the last couple of years. Matt Nagy offense has been the most vanilla in the NFL. It's the same with Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur, I saw what he did last year. This guy, I think, is the problem. I don't think any of these 2 quarterbacks, maybe Drew Lock, he has his issues, but Pat Shurmur is one of the biggest problems in Denver. Rich Scangarello, who is now the 49ers quarterbacks coach, he works wonders with young quarterbacks. He put in a modern day offense in Denver. And if you watch the Denver Broncos compared to when Joe Flacco was starting to when Drew Lock came in and started, it was totally different. I mean, the Denver Broncos, they weren't scoring like 40 points a game, but still, they were putting up a respectable number of points a game. And, they had a lot of creativity in their offense with a lot of motion, a lot of jet sweeps, and a lot of play action off of those motion plays, which Drew Lock really thrived in. And then Pat Shurmur comes in. And what does the offense look like? It's literally run on first and second down, and then on third down, when they're hoping that they're in 3rd and 5, they dump a short pass over the middle to try to get the first down. That's literally what Denver's offense is. Denver's offense has no motion. There's no creativity. Drew Lock's biggest strengths, or one of his biggest strengths, is ability to get out of the pocket and throw on the run. Guess what Pat Shurmur did? No, just keep Drew Lock in the pocket. Pat Shurmur should have been fired last season. I don't know why Denver brought him in, and I think that regardless of who starts, whether it's BridgeWater or whether it's Drew Lock, the offense, I think, still is going to struggle because Pat Shurmur has the creativity of a 5-year-old boy.
Well, who knows, man, at this point, but with the Broncos again, folks, he traded their 2021 6th-round pick to the Carolina Panthers for Teddy Bridgewater and James Gonzalez. Is kind of saying what we've been saying up until this point. I think Mac Jones is just a product where you played. Offensive line, receivers, your receiver won the Heisman Trophy this year. How much talent was around him at Alabama. Hopefully I'm wrong wherever he goes in the NFL. I know we joke around about Mac Jones to the 49ers, but the reason why I say the 49ers, regardless of teasing you, is that just as James Gonzalez, just said, he had a very good offensive line. He had good weapons, a good running game, and a great interior defense. What is a team in the top 4 pick that has that, regardless of us teasing you? What is a team that has that right now and can be in win-now mode? That's the San Francisco 49ers. You got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got George Kittle coming back from injury. You re-signed Trent Williams, you got Bosa, you got all those guys on the interior defensive side of the ball, and you're kind of in the draft, you're going to be addressing the passing attack. I know we tease you, Mac Jones, and we can tease the byproduct of your system, Alabama, Nick Saban. I get that. But he's in a system with the potential of the 49ers that's similar to Alabama in terms of you have the weapons, receiving core, running game, offensive line, defense, coaching. So that would be a good system for him to succeed. Yes, it'd be hilarious to see you react on TV and break a TV. But I think it would be in the best choice for him to succeed because this team is in win-now mode and they have weapons in all 4 front.
Let me say this. Mac Jones, or McCorkle Jones, like we call him here on this network.
Now, wait, that was you. I call him MJ.
Yes, I call him McCorkle Jones because he hasn't earned the name Mac yet. But the reason why, if the Niners draft him, I will be upset, it's not because I don't think Mac Jones or McCorkle Jones can play. I think he can play. I think he will do all right in the NFL. But I think that his ceiling is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo pre-torn ACL and Alex Smith before that nasty leg injury. That's what McCorkle Jones's ceiling is. And Kyle Shanahan, you know, in your press conferences after the games and, you know, other press conferences that you've had, and even speaking to reporters like one-on-one, the reason why you did not like Jimmy Garoppolo is because of his inability to throw the ball down the field, his inability to make plays on the run, and his inability to be explosive like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. When you were talking about Josh Allen, you answered this question about what makes Josh Allen great. And you said that what makes Josh Allen great is his ability to not only have a great arm, but his ability to hurt teams with his legs. So having taken all your comments, you trade up. You trade 3 first-round picks and maybe even a second-round pick. You trade 3 first-round picks and a second. You mortgage your entire future to trade up from 12 all the way to 3 for the same quarterback that you currently have on your roster, it literally makes no sense whatsoever. If you're happy with, the kind of quarterback that Mac Jones and Jimmy G are, then just stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's like, you don't trade 3 first-round picks to move up to get the same quarterback that you currently have. No, you trade all those picks to get the guy that will take you over the hump and is more athletically gifted, more agile, and more explosive than the quarterback that you currently have, and that is not McCorkle Jones. That is Justin Fields. That is potentially Trey Lance in the future, and that is definitely Zach Wilson. So if it's not any of those 3 guys, Kyle Shanahan, you will be a hypocrite, because when you were asked, I believe it was in your press conference, about what you wanted in a quarterback, you said you want you want a quarterback with Drew Brees' arm, and you want a quarterback with also Lamar Jackson type running abilities. That is not McCorkle Jones. Don't be a hypocrite. Do not make the wrong decision tomorrow, Kyle Shanahan, because this is going to be the most consequential decision in the history of the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers have been around for a long, long time, but this is going to shape the 49ers for the next 10 years. So you better make the right pick. This pick better not be Mr. McCorkle Jones. I like McCorkle Jones. He's kind of growing on me, but he's still Jimmy G 2.0, and you don't do that to get the same quarterback that you have currently.
Here's the only thing I get. I'm not defending MJ here. Is that the fact, just like in free agency, regardless if the quarterback or a player is worth that many picks or trading that many players, that sometimes is the unfortunate thing that you have to do in the draft. You have to overtrade to get what you want, and especially going up 9 spots. Again, who knows? I hope they don't get Justin Fields. I would love Justin Fields with the Denver Broncos, but at this point, who knows? Maybe like Rob Parker says, no way, no how. Hopefully Jones fits in the system that makes his talents work. That definitely could be a possibility. Who knows, my man? If, again, and I'll say this, I'm not saying Mac Jones is going to be a future Hall of Famer. Let me make that very clear. But if somehow he fell to the Broncos again, he won't, based on the hype and the school he went to, and win the national championship. I wouldn't be mad if the Broncos got him, because at least you have veteran presence to help him learn the ropes. Give him abilities pretty similar between Bridgewater and Mac Jones. You get the offensive line. Who knows? Drew Lock is a 3rd stringer. I'll take him any day. In case it kind of like Goff did with the Los Angeles Rams. Goff didn't really do anything special, but he's also a byproduct of his weapons. Hence, now he could be a backup in the next year or 2. I'll take, if whatever happens this year in this draft, I'll take Jared Goff on a 1-year deal next year, potentially to either compete for the starting job, depending on what happens this year, or become a backup. It could. I'm not saying that he's Blake Bortles. Let me make that clear. Blake Bortles shouldn't have been drafted that high. Shouldn't have gotten that 3-year deal with the Jaguars. But it could end up being like Blake Bortles in a few years, and that's an unfortunate situation coming out of Cal. But again, that's just one of the unfortunate things in the NFL.
I got a couple of things I want to add about this, and that is, first of all, when you look at quarterbacks from Alabama, when has there been a quarterback from Alabama that has been great in the NFL that's come out recently? I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that's come out of Alabama. A.J. McCarron, he's a backup right now in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa, he got exposed last season. I think he got exposed. Everybody was hyping him up like he was the second coming of Joe Namath. But, I mean, this guy showed that he was a byproduct of the great offensive line that he had, the great wide receivers that he had, and the great coaching that he had at Alabama, and their ability to scheme wide open plays up for him. I just think that that's going to be Mac Jones. I think that when he comes into the NFL, no matter how smart he is, no matter how experienced he is, that's going to be Mac Jones. He's going to just be an average, mediocre quarterback. And if you're Kyle Shanahan, you traded all those picks for basically the same player that you currently have on your roster. So, Kyle, I'm going to look directly into the camera right now. I don't want to ever hear you complain after games. If you draft Mac Jones, I don't want to hear you complain after games or complain to other people in the organization that the reason why you lost is because your quarterback is not explosive enough and you don't have one of the top 10 or 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. You made the trade so you could pick your guy that would help define your tenure in San Francisco, and you personally chose Mac Jones. So if Mac Jones ends up being like Tua right now and struggling and being average to mediocre, that's on you. That is your fault that the Niners will be stuck with a Jared Goff 2.0, a Jimmy G 2.0, is because your ego, which I think let's get the best of you a lot. Your ego, in which your ego thinks that you can be the best play caller in the world and you don't need a great quarterback. You can make any quarterback great. That ego of yours is what's going to end up costing you your job in San Francisco, and it's what's going to end up costing the 49ers to move back or to be set backwards for the next 5 to 10 years if McCorkle Jones is the pick.
And I agree, and I think it's, but at the same time, you could play advocate saying, "Oh, what we'd always say in the past? Oh, what about Ohio State quarterbacks? They don't last either." But he hasn't played in the NFL, so we don't know. I'm not saying he's any different than Aaron or frankly any of the AJ McCarron or any of these other different quarterbacks. But you can always have people saying that, wow, he hasn't played in the NFL yet. What if it's different than somebody else? And that's what people say about Justin Fields. And I get it. I definitely think it's frustrating. But again, I love playing this video because I know you can't say a thing about this certain franchise.
Matt Chapman.
How about the Oakland A's that win? What's the last time? 1989. Again, folks, that's not part of the show. I just love teasing Isaiah on that. I would love to work with the 49ers, unlike some people here. But this next thing here, again, the New England Patriots have been rumored to trade up in the NFL draft, potentially down or up to the number 4 spot. Isaiah, Bill Belichick is trying to prove that he can win without Tom Brady. If Bill Belichick doesn't get this right, this could be a very awkward next 2 to 3 years where, yeah, we broke up, but your name's still on the lease here. His name is still on the lease, even if they broke up, if he does not get this quarterback right. With potential rumors about getting Justin Fields, it's smart for the Patriots if they do that. But I don't want them to do that. We don't want another dynasty here, folks. I think some type of quarterback, he's a much more energetic, exciting Cam Newton at this point. Cam Newton had a phenomenal arm coming out of Auburn. Again, used to play at Florida with Urban Meyer, and it's the backup. But Isaiah, if the New England Patriots somehow would trade up to get Justin Fields, how do you think this would shake up not just the AFC East, but the entire AFC?
Wow. First of all, I would be ecstatic for Justin Fields if he ends up in New England because Justin Fields would kind of be like Tom Brady. He knows that he thinks in his mind, I think every quarterback does as well, but he thinks in his mind that he's the best quarterback in this class. And he's got a lot of confidence and a lot of swagger to him. And I just believe that, Justin Fields, a lot of people have slandered him for no reason. This guy was coming into this season, he was the second best quarterback in college football behind Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know why, people are saying now that he's the number 15 or even lower than that and have him dropping so low. What did this guy do? This guy, all he did was put up massive numbers against Clemson in the college football playoff semifinals. And also he put up decent numbers against Alabama. But hey, that's Alabama, okay? That's Alabama. Nobody's going to, not a lot of people are going to go in and torch Alabama. So he didn't even do anything wrong. Hasn't got into trouble. Hasn't, gotten hurt, anything like that. So I really don't know why that he's dropping. My theory is that he's probably dropping because of the whole epilepsy news, which you should be a little bit worried about because epilepsy is a neurological disorder which involves the brain. And, I know a lot of people are brushing it off like it's nothing, but Trust me, folks. I had a friend that had epilepsy. It is some serious, serious stuff. You have to be afraid of it. I know the doctor said that he could potentially, grow out of it, and he's managing it right now. But still, John, think about this: neurological disease, brain disease, and football is a sport that involves a lot of trauma to the head. So I'm just worried that he might make it worse. I'm looking, out for him and his long-term health. But if he can get through the epilepsy, and that epilepsy is no problem, all right? If that epilepsy issue is no problem, I think he's in a great spot because he's got a great defense. He's got a great coach to work with, got one of the best play callers in the NFL to work with that can scheme up plays to his strengths. And I think he could be like Russell Wilson early on and just not be asked to do that much in the first couple of years in his career. If you guys remember, Russell Wilson had Marshawn Lynch, he had that defense, and all the Seattle just asked him to do in the first couple of years was they just asked him to hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch and just not make mistakes. And that's how they did that early on, and that helped him get his confidence boosted up, and that helped him, be developed. And now Russell Wilson is this beast of a quarterback. So I think that's what New England's going to try to do with him. They're going to, if he plays, I don't think he's going to start week 1, but I think if he plays, like, let's say middle of the season, I think they're just going to top running backs, Damian Harris or Sonny Michel or any of those guys, and just not turn the football over and try to win that way. And I think that's a great way for him to develop. But I don't know about those reports, honestly, because like you said, there's a lot of rumors coming out as we get closer and closer to the draft. By the way, our draft extravaganza is tomorrow at 4:45 p.m. Pacific time, so make sure you guys tune in for that. But there's just a lot of rumors coming on about like different stuff regarding the draft. You don't know which one to believe. Like today, we had the Justin Fields rumors surrounding the Patriots, and then you had another report from a Boston newspaper writer, I guess, that from Dale Arnold, that the Patriots are reportedly in talks to rework Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. So there's just a lot of rumors out elsewhere. So I can't wait to see, how everything finally pans out in the NFL draft.
Here's the only thing I understand about just if nobody said anything about his epilepsy, could we tell on the field or off the field that he had any issues? I get, yeah, it's very serious. You need to take it seriously, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, a ton of family members had it and they outgrew it. They didn't have any issues. Every single body reacts different. If nobody told you that, that wouldn't be an issue. And the reason why they're criticizing it more, even though I don't think that it's as big of a deal, is because every year on the draft, criticizing scouts, everybody's going to find a tiny little thing to criticize an NFL quarterback, regardless if it's valid or not. You go back to last year when I talked about with Carson Palmer, they were criticizing Joe Burrow because of his tiny hands. I mean, seriously, that's just a fact of the matter. That's definitely a joke, and I don't understand why scouts do that. I understand, like, they may not like certain quarterbacks, so maybe they want the value to go down. Again, that's just a lot of criticism from certain scouts and guys coming into the NFL draft. But again, James Gonzalez also comes in to say Pats need to trade up for a quarterback. Couldn't agree more. If they don't, they might regret it. Pats also have to get more talent offensive weapons-wise. They definitely may address some of the offensive line, but I think what Bill Belichick does best is doesn't draft high offensive players, and he can get some receivers in the 4th or 5th or maybe the 6th round, and I think they'll just be all right. This one, James Gonzalez hit the nail on the coffin. This is the most important draft and or offseason for the New England Patriots. Couldn't agree more. Last season, without Tom Brady, you had Cam Newton, COVID-19, all that stuff, so we can give you some wiggle room there. Again, James Gonzalez also says, post-Brady, the most important offseason for New England. Definitely a lot of pressure in there. If it doesn't work out, you never really know. And Ishmael, what's up, my man? Hope you're doing well tonight. Thank you so much for joining and tuning into the show. Ishmael comes in to say, do you buy the Jimmy G reworking contract story with New England that broke earlier tonight? I'll be honest here. Ishmael, I don't. Because, again, this is not me saying, oh, I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo on my team. But let me also make this clear. The rumors saying that, oh, this is going to happen, and then not even a couple hours later, it was dethroned. A lot of times, again, yes, Ishmael, I believe that is his name, but I call him MJ. Again, that's a lot of stories that you hear about, oh, reports say this, reports say that, and especially during the draft. I give it little to no thought at all. Because let's say they have offered, contracts are talking, or certain words that they say to make it seem convincing that this contract with this certain quarterback is going to happen. And again, I don't buy the Jimmy G reworking contract to the Patriots because you heard rumors about, oh, Stafford's going to go to the Niners. It didn't happen. All these other different stories during the draft. You can't really take that seriously.
I buy that story because here's why. Because yesterday, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they gave a press conference, right, in Santa Clara. And a month ago when they gave a press conference to announce the trade and also give their thoughts post-free agency, they were like saying, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo's our guy. We love Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback. You know, we can win a Super Bowl this year with Jimmy Garoppolo. And yesterday, you know, they mentioned the word starting quarterback in regards to the rookie like 26 times. I was watching that press conference, watched it from start to finish, and they mentioned the word starting quarterback 26 total times in that press conference. And another thing that I thought was really telling was that Kyle Shanahan, when asked about, you know, Jimmy G and if he's going to be on the roster past Sunday, he said, I don't even know if we're going to be alive by Sunday. He clearly dodged the question about Jimmy G. So that makes it seem to me that I think that they have a deal in place to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. It just hasn't been leaked yet. Because if you're Kyle Shanahan, if you're John Lynch, why would you go to your press conference and start bashing the heck out of Jimmy Garoppolo? Because that would destroy any trade value that you had for Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't do that unless you have a deal either nearly completed or already agreed to in terms of compensation. So that's why I kind of buy that story about, you know, the Jimmy G reworking the contract. I don't know if he's reworking it with the Patriots, but I think that there is a deal that is either near complete or already agreed to in terms of compensation out there, and the 49ers are just waiting for Garoppolo to rework his contract with that other team before they agree and finalize that trade.
Again, who knows at this point, my man, but other breaking news really in the NFL shouldn't be much of a shocker. Receiver Antonio Brown re-signs a one-year deal with the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers worth up to $3.1 million and a $2 million signing bonus, so almost $5.5 million. Regardless, we know the talent's there. The only reason why that he didn't get he couldn't get a 2 to 3 year contract is because he's 32 to 33 years old. That's not because he isn't talented. He still has a lot left in the tank at his age. But at that age, you're not going to give a receiver at that age that much money, even though he does deserve it without a doubt. The Bucs are getting stacked, my man, and I have the Bucs again winning the NFC to going back to the Super Bowl. People say, I know it's difficult. Yes, it is. But when nobody else has a quarterback like Tom Brady. You talk about all these quarterbacks, going back to the Super Bowl. Well, yeah, when you overpay your receivers, Brandon Cooks, to give him too many offensive weapons. When your quarterback can't put the team on his back, that is a single more addition why teams cannot go back to the Super Bowl. But my man, the Bucs get stacked and stacked here. But before we finish off this last minute emergency show here, we're going to kind of talk about a couple of players from the past that were bust. Going to NFL history. Speaking about the Bucs here, number 32, they drafted Bo Jackson in 1986. What did Bo Jackson tell the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1986? That if you draft me, I am not going to play for you, and I'm going to go play baseball. And what did Bo Jackson do? Didn't play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers again. Buccaneers back in the day were just pure trash, but man, just seeing some of these stories about NFL bust. Ryan Leaf, I remember hearing that story when I was younger after I started watching more football. But man, what could have been if Bo Jackson decided to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Man, imagine what could have happened with the Bucks? Will they've had a better career? Who knows, man? But a lot of these busts we talked about, it's not their fault. He's not a bust as a player, but it was a bust for the Bucks. The Bucks did not listen. If they don't want to play for you, what makes you think drafting is going to make a difference? Look at Eli Manning with the Chargers. If Eli Manning stayed with the Chargers, they would have won multiple Super Bowls. At that time, the Broncos weren't doing anything. The Chiefs weren't doing
Tell
anything
Callan
there.
that.
The Raiders weren't doing. Callan doesn't care about the Chargers no more. The Raiders weren't doing anything. Or the Raiders, okay, they were a team. Besides the Raiders in that division, they weren't doing anything. So I just imagine what could have happened. But this one, like, I know this next one though is a bummer. David Carr with the Houston Texans. This is a problem, folks, is that a lot of times the notion is if a quarterback fails or is considered a bust, it is always his fault. It's on him. And sometimes, folks, even though it is a business, it's not always on the quarterback. That's what I'm saying. Zach Wilson goes to the Jets and they fail. It's not because of Zach Wilson. It's not because of Geno Smith. It's not because of Mark Sanchez. Remember, Geno Smith that first year, they went 8-8. The only decent quarterback they've had was Mark Sanchez, and it wasn't because of Mark Sanchez that they went to those two AFC teams. They had that defense. You had a much older LT. You had 1 year with Ryan Fitzpatrick when he went, I believe, 11-5, 10-6, 11-5, and nearly missed the playoffs. But imagine if David Carr, Isaiah, was traded to a team that was in a potential 49er situation, we could have a whole different issue here. Watson wouldn't be there. DeAndre Hopkins, who knows what could have happened. You get James Gonzalez. I feel the exact same way as you, my man. I cringe when I hear David Carr's name. I think it was time in Houston. This is the exact situation we talk about with quarterbacks, and I'll continue to drill this in y'all's head here. Offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. Those are two words I'll say time and time again. Not just for David Carr, not just for Tim Couch. Just looking at some of these, man, it breaks my heart. It just makes me miss the old football back in the day. But kind of going back to some of these Tim Couch, man.
Hold up, John, before you continue any further, I want to go back to the David Carr and him getting sacked and you saying that teams need to invest in their offensive line. He's talking to you, Cincinnati. He's talking to you, Bengals. You have a decision tomorrow in which you're either going to draft Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman out of Oregon, or you're going to draft Rashawn Slater, the standout offensive lineman out of Northwestern, or you're going to draft the guy that Joe Burrow has reportedly been lobbying for, his boy Jamar Chase, the wide receiver out of LSU. And let me say this very clearly. If you don't draft either Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, those offensive linemen, which they are gifted to you. You get to choose between Slater or Sewell. If you bypass both of them, Joe Burrow is going to be the next David Carr because I don't trust the Bengals to improve their offensive line. The Bengals did not really make any moves towards their offensive line, which is a damn shame because look at what happened last year. Joe Burrow got sacked a gazillion times, and you would think that this franchise would see that and be like, hey, we got to get our offensive line fixed, and we got so much money. But instead, they did not get that offensive line fixed. They used that money and put it towards the defense and elsewhere. They did not fix the main weakness of their team. And if Joe Burrow continues to get sacked that many times, he's going to be the next David Carr. And I have a feeling he might be out of the league in 4 to 5 years because of like catastrophic injuries that he will suffer playing behind that pathetic offensive line. So do not listen to Joe Burrow. I know he wants Jamar Chase, but Joe Burrow, you should be ashamed of yourself if you want Jamar Chase at the Bengals because you got hit so many times last season and you should want your team to protect you from getting hit all those times. So if you get your wish and get Jamar Chase, you know, you deserve to get hit a gazillion more times because you could have had two or one of the top two offensive linemen, but instead you wanted a receiver, which is not even one of your biggest needs in this draft. So Bengals, make the right decision tomorrow.
Definitely, my man. I heard that before. Again, folks, this is kind of a little bit off the ball. One of my friends that we interviewed is preparing for the NFL draft. I think Kamel that interviewed on April 3rd, the one I told you about. So all the best luck to him. And I believe this year he'll be drafted. And he was a player or a guy that didn't play college football, got invited to the combine. So my best wishes to him. But these last few here, man, some of these just really break my heart here. And again, this is the frustrating part about the NFL. And if you don't like a quarterback, regardless if it's their fault or not that they were a bust, then there's always the notion, oh, it's the quarterback's fault, or oh, it is the quarterback's fault. But again, y'all, that one dude 2020 here, John, on the host, that one dude 2020 emergency show, which I really had to do tonight. Didn't think it'd be more than 5 to 10 minutes. But again, thank you guys so much for your comments, though. But we do, before the end of every single episode, we could do an Isaiah roast sesh, but man, oh man, we don't have the time for that. But let's go to tonight's final thoughts. Hey man, thank you for joining despite what's going on tonight, and I know what you're dealing with right now. But what are your final thoughts for tonight's show and the upcoming NFL draft? MJ, the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me onto the show tonight. It was a great show. Can't wait for. Well, actually, before I get into that, I want to thank the fans. I want to thank my guy Shardo Gupta, James Gonzalez. Make sure you tune in to his podcast. I believe his podcast name is called The Chair with James Gonzalez. Make sure you guys tune into that. Also want to thank. I think we had a couple more comments. Ishmael as well for tuning in. And Ishmael, I didn't get a chance to, respond to this comment of yours, McCorko Jones. And then he asked, is that his real name? John and I can confirm. We looked at this on Wikipedia. That is, in fact, his real name. Mac Jones' real name is McCorko Jones. So, it's a pretty unique name, but I just don't want him as my starting quarterback. But thanks once again to all the fans for tuning into the show. We really appreciate you. Final thoughts for tonight. Man, I'm just glad that tomorrow is the draft because, John, I don't think I can take waiting another day or waiting another 12 hours. I haven't been able to sleep well the last 3-4 days, so it'll be good to get the draft over with and finally get some sleep in me. But we have our draft extravaganza tomorrow. It's going to be the biggest and most epic spectacle in the history of the MI6 Sports Network. I know last year we had the MI6 Sports Network draft extravaganza, the first edition of it, but this year I guarantee you it's going to be more epic than it did last year because last year we just cobbled it up last minute and, we just randomly put on the draft and everybody was on and just watched it together. It's going to be more epic because we have so much more preparation towards the show. So can't wait for that tomorrow. Make sure you guys tune in at 4:45 p.m. Pacific time, 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. Me, John, and the rest of the MI6 clan will come to you live and just watch and react to the draft as it comes and goes. And also one last thing, I know that it's going to be going out there on Twitter because our stream might be a little bit slower than this live stream. So please do not, comment down below in the comment section and do not, do not comment down below in the comment section about who is the pick for whichever team is on the clock. We want to watch it and react to it live on the air. We want that genuine, raw emotion on the draft show. So please don't ruin it for us. We really appreciate it, but make sure you guys tune in. Biggest show in MI6 history tomorrow night, the MI6 Sports Network draft extravaganza. Can't wait for that.
Sorry, again, I hadn't said I was muted, but again, James Gonzalez is going to say thanks for the plug, my man, and thank you for doing the show tonight, John and Zaya. Again, we love this. We consider making in the sports industry because we love what we do. But again, happy draft time. Like I tell you, it's free agency, it's the draft, it's the regular season. Those are three things when I feel like a kid in the candy store and on Christmas morning. But again, folks, that one dude 2020 here. Joined by Isaiah Leong. Draft is extravaganza tonight, or technically tomorrow for the rest of your daughter and Isaiah's time. But thank you all so much for the support. My man, Kamal, man, I wish you the best luck in the draft, and got interviewed on April 3rd, and I wish you the best, and I can't wait to see where you go. But again, NY6 Sports Network, we'll see you later. Peace, and Isaiah, can't wait to see you smash that TV.
What is up, y'all?
Corn, I don't know, man, if I have seen someone, and I think I said this a while back when he first came on the network, was I don't know if I've seen someone with the drive and passion to make it in the industry like I've seen with you. And
that's my boy, that dude 2020. I like the name. Where did
the drive and fire and passion in some people is not quite there for this type of an industry because it's cutthroat. It's very, up and down roller coaster of emotion. Also, I don't know if I've seen a person, though, who probably has been so appreciative of a chance that they were given. Corn, like I've said, though, man, is, again, you're one of the new guys on this network. And again, I know that you're very appreciative, though, of me kind of giving you the shot here. But
How did you get blocked by LeBron James on Twitter?
I don't know if I've seen so much drive and energy and passion from someone maybe other than me for this industry. And
LeBron is truly a rising star in this industry. He knows his stuff. He's not afraid to go at people, and he's a guy that you want to go to bat for. And I'm so thankful that he's part of our network.
And folks, technical difficulties. Peace. See you later. Draft extravaganza tomorrow night. Have a good one.
He'll throw it here on first down. Pressure up the middle. Wilson gets away from trouble. Oh, wide open receiver. Spot inside the 20.